So, Chad, it's not been smooth sailing for HSBC over the past few years. What is the situation the bank currently finds itself in?
Well, it's been a challenging few years since Noel Quinn took over as CEO. First we've had issues around geopolitics. You had the Huawei situation where you had the Huawei CFO arrested or detained, at least in Canada, and HSBC was involved in the investigation in that they provided some documents. That led to an issue in terms of its acceptance in China. Then you had the protest in Hong Kong, which affected its largest market, followed by 2 years of coronavirus in Hong Kong, which they had a particularly rough first quarter because of that. And then among all of that, they also regulated in the UK rather than in Hong Kong, their biggest market. And a few years ago, the UK regulator asked them to suspend their dividend for the year. That caused a lot of angst amongst their shareholders in Hong Kong who really depend upon that dividend. And here we are now with their largest shareholder challenging them, talking about potentially breaking up the bank.
Yeah, so what does that actually mean? What is Ping An calling for?
Well, publicly, Ping An has called for a public debate. Basically, they want to talk about the future of HSBC, what they should do, how they should, think about their business going forward. Privately, they have talked a little bit about the idea that perhaps you take the Asian business and you spin it off in Hong Kong to try and open up value. Now, that's a very challenging thing to do because of the way HSBC is structured.
Yeah, so can you explain a little bit more about how that would work? How you'd have a Western side and then the Asia operation?
Well, see, that's the challenge there. So, in Asia, you have a very large business. It's built around wealth. It's built around the commercial bank, but it's also really about Hong Kong. If you spun that out, the issue is that a lot of business that is booked in Asia is actually originated in other parts of the world. It's originated in the UK. It's originated in the US, or it's someone in China who's trying to do business in those markets and is sending their business that way. So it's sort of hard to split it apart that way. At least that's what the bank executives say.
And what would it mean for shareholders if the bank split?
Well, the thing is with HSBC is you have shareholders all around the world. HSBC is traded primarily in Hong Kong and in London, but also has ADRs in the US. And so when you do a split like that, you have funds that, pension funds in the UK that can only hold UK listed companies. They can't hold the Hong Kong stock, and that's why they hold the London stock. And so how do you deal with that value? Because you might have those pension funds suddenly having to sell off a large amount of their holdings because they suddenly have Asian stock they can't hold.
And what has been the response from HSBC? What has been the response from other shareholders?
Well, HSBC has not said a whole lot publicly other than that they regularly engage with shareholders. But, privately, they've been saying that they really think they've got the right strategy here. They think that their business is about connecting East and West. And if you try to split that apart, then the bank just isn't as interesting to not only customers, but also investors. And so, within that, they really want to keep the bank together because, it's really hard to see it, set up differently. And would it be as strong as it currently is, even though its stock price is quite weak compared to 4 years ago?
What do you think the chances are that we will see the Asia and the Western operations split? How serious are these calls?
I think that Ping An is trying to force a debate here, and those are the headline grabbing things. Let's break the bank up. There's a lot of shareholders in 2020 when the dividend was suspended. Smaller shareholders were like, oh, let's do this because it's silly the UK is getting involved here and keeping us from giving our dividends. But the executives are doing an internal review. They're sort of kicking the tires. They brought in Goldman Sachs to act as an independent advisor to say, hey, are there ways we can improve the business? Are there ways that we can do things differently? And would it work if we broke the bank up? executives are not, really looking at breaking the bank up. They're really stressing the international reach of HSBC. And, I don't think we're going to see anything in the near future where we would see the bank broken up.